Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. The month of Ramadan was prescribed in the second year after Hijrah, and from that time until the 11th year, wherein the Prophet ﷺ had passed away, year in and year out, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would be had made Itikaf, had secluded himself for the spiritual retreat in the month of Ramadan. At times, initially, it was done in the first 10 days, then in the middle 10 days, to seek out Laylatul Qadr. Then it became clear to him and he was informed. تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ, the matter was made clear and open to him that it would be in the al-ashr al-akhir, in the last 10 days of or nights of Ramadan. فَدَاوَمَ عَلَى اِعْتِكَافِ الْأَشْرِ الْأَخِيرِ حَتَّى لَهِكَ بِرَبِّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَ. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu continuously and constantly, a year in and year out, then thereafter would make i'tikaf in the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. On one occasion, he sallallahu he did not make the i'tikaf in the last 10, but had made it up then in the first 10 days of the month of Shawwal, which comes right after the month of Ramadan. And in the very final year, the Prophet ﷺ then had made in his final year, the final Ramadan of his life, ﷺ, he had made i'tikaf of the last 20 days, 20 yawman. There is a hadith which we would like to share, inshallah, and it could be a lesson, inshallah, for all of us. And it's a narration in Bukhari, and the narrator is Safiya Mu'mineen. And she says that she came on one occasion to visit the Prophet ﷺ while he ﷺ was in i'tikaf fil masjid, fil ashr al-awakhir min Ramadan, in the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. There's no indication exactly when this was, which year it was, but it was one of that times where the Prophet ﷺ was in Ramadan, and was in the last 10 nights, and he was in i'tikaf, and Safiya Mu'mineen radiyallahu anha had come to visit him. And the Prophet ﷺ then, after the visit, ثُمَّ قَامَتْ, then she had stood up and she started making her way home. And the Prophet ﷺ accompanied her. He accompanied her حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ قَرِيبًا مِنْ بَابِ الْمَسْجِدِ, until they just came close to the door of the masjid, where the door of, because many of the Mu'mineen, their homes, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, their homes were adjacent to the masjid. So that door which exited from the masjid and led into the door of Salama, just before that, then there was two people from the Ansar which passed by that way. And they made salam upon the Prophet ﷺ. They said, Assalamu alaikum. Thumma nafada. Then they quickly made their way, and they picked up their pace. And the Prophet ﷺ told them, ala rislikuma, that not so fast, wait for me. And because I want to inform you that innama hiya Safiyatu bintu Huyayyin. This is Safiya. This is my wife, Safiya. And they said then, Subhanallah ya Rasulullah, wa kabura alayhima. They said, glory be to Allah, O Messenger of Allah. And, they weren't expecting that the Prophet ﷺ, clarify this matter, that is perhaps, it's dark, it's the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and the Prophet ﷺ is seen with Safiya radiallahu anha, which prior to that they never knew, they just made salam. But this is an indication and an explanation that the Prophet ﷺ, he himself was an effective communicator. And this is important. And everyone has, of course, different abilities in speaking, in writing, etc., in communication. But we should try to, inshallah, try our best to have it in such a way that we effectively communicate to others which does not leave ambiguity, which does not leave them to solve things on their own. And when it is done in this way, then it brings about clarity, and it also can bring about more unity as well. So that's one responsibility that we can learn from the Prophet ﷺ, that importance of communicating to others, right? And not leaving certain things in which need to be communicated. And this is what we can take as a lesson from these last 10 nights from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, because when communication channels are not clear, then that leads to ambiguity, and ambiguity could lead to disunity, and it could affect our relationships as well, whatever form it may be in. And thereafter, the Prophet ﷺ explained to them, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَبْلُغُ مِنَ الْإِنسَانِ مَبْلَغَ الدَّمِ, that indeed shaitan, he reaches the human being just as the blood reaches the human being. Meaning shaitan flows within the human just as blood flows within the human being. He's constantly making effort, exerting his efforts to dissuade, to insinuate, to whisper within the human being. وَإِنِّي خَشِيتُ أَن يَقْذِفَ فِي قُلُوبِكُمَا شَيْئًا. It's not you that I fear. I don't have any, bad thoughts about you. But the reality is that shaitan, he flows within us. And I feared that he threw or cast within your heart something. So therefore, I just wanted to be clear on this matter. So like we said, there was a dual responsibility. One is, of course, we can learn from the Prophet ﷺ the importance of effective communication. And on the second hand as well, there's also responsibility for the individual as well, that even if it's not communicated and there's certain thoughts that a person has, then let a person not harbor those ill feelings or those bad thoughts. Rather, let him make a good interpretation and give the benefit of doubt. Like some of our salaf, they would always mention that, that they would try to make sometimes 70 excuses for a person. And when they still cannot find an excuse, then they said that, I've exhausted the 70, and I have yet to find an excuse for that individual, which I would be able to judge this matter with. So therefore, this is a lesson of effective communication and also fighting bad thoughts or ill thoughts or evil thoughts against others and harboring them. Rather, a person should know that shaitan, this is part of his job, and not to pay too much attention to this. Of course, there are specifics to specific cases as well, and it has to be taken by case. But this is just some general guidelines that we can learn from the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ when it came to this specific incident within the seerah when he was sitting in the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase the rank of the Prophet ﷺ and allow us to embrace his teachings and benefit from them, and thereby inshallah become more effective communicators and people who do not harbor ill feelings towards others or ill thoughts as well. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite our hearts in that which he loves and is pleased with. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah bil alameen.